fantastic group. It's so wonderful to see your beautiful faces and your names. Thank you for joining us today. For those of you who don't know, I'm Cynthia Good, and there's Julie Bird out of California. And Sloan, I saw your name up there. So great to have you all with us. Welcome everybody to this Pink Zoominar. Today we're focusing on who is in your corner. This has been a topic that we have discussed a lot at the recent Pink event. Every single speaker, all these top women business leaders we feature, talked about the importance of having a powerful group of advocates who are behind you. And they also emphasize the importance of having not just one mentor, not just one sponsor, but multiple sponsors, and also people in our network that look different than we do. And I personally have found not only is it crucial for business, certainly, but it just enriches your life, right? To have these amazing individuals in your corner who are part of your life. And some of my most important relationships in my life right now evolved really initially from a business relationship, certainly for companies, for efficiency and profitability and growth. This is important. But it's hard to do, right? It's hard to do under normal conditions, but especially now that we are under lock and key, many of us, due to the pandemic. So today we're going to talk about what do we do? How do we reach out? How do we access this network and build and cultivate and nurture these relationships that are so crucial? We've got some fantastic experts for you today, and I want to introduce them now. Sue Bolke. Sue is the president and managing director, media and events for Informatech. Hey, Sue, how are you? So make sure to unmute your microphone, and our other experts, please unmute your microphones as well. And everybody else stay muted because you're all going to get a chance to speak a little bit later during the program. How's it going, Sue?
It's going great. I'm unmuted now. Hopefully you can hear me.
It's great to hear you. Yes, you sound fabulous. Also with us is Adele Wong. Adele is a mentor, author, speaker, and by the way, she also happens to be a violinist for the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra. She's worked with them for many years, and that was Adele's beautiful music that we started off today with. So thanks for that, Adele.
Hey everybody, glad to be here.
Great to see you. And also Montrella Cowan. Montrella is a licensed therapist and she is a relationship expert. Hi, Montrella, tell us where you are joining us live. From where?
All the way from the nation's capital.
Which is a wild place to be in. Thank you so much for being with us. And I really wanted to ask our three experts. I mean, these are women. Sue, very senior level, extraordinary businesswoman, and Adele and Montrella, who are experts in this space. On a personal level, Sue, how is it going with your most crucial business relationships during this whole pandemic?
So I'll just be completely transparent and saying if I'm not working with you every day, it's not going very well. And I think this session is a good call to action for me, that you have to prioritize it for the sake of your relationships as well as for the sake of yourself, because I'm just consumed with business Zoom calls all day long and don't have the natural, let's have coffee, let's have lunch, after work things to cause me to keep those relationships up.
Ah, interesting. So this constant demand on your time, even though it would seem that we have more time, you don't have to drive anywhere, but that's not the case. So Adele, what about you? How is it going with those relationships for you?
I echo very much what Sue just said, that it's an illusion that we have more time. I've never been busier, and the intensity, because there aren't these breaks, and work and non-work sort of merge, and I have to think a little bit harder on self-care. And it's easy if I'm Zooming on work, I have to remember, oh, socializing is also on Zoom, and it gets a little bit, I have to really remind myself where I am. I can lose track of the day of the week, the time, and so yeah, it's a struggle for me.
Montrella, what about you? How is it going for you with those key relationships?
Well, relationships, they impact one from the other. So business impacts personal family life. And so I have a 16-year-old, and he's typically in an boarding school in Oregon, and it's not open right now. So we're getting along well, so I would say, but he's about ready to resume his education. So that's one thing. On the business side, believe it or not, Cynthia, I am making more connections. So I'm in DC, but you know, we're close to Maryland and Virginia, also known as the DMV for any of you out there in that area. And so I've been able to actually connect with people business-wise for people who are maybe all the way in Fairfax, whereas before I would not have had time to even make that kind of commute.
Right. All right. Well, let's take a look at how everybody who's participating today, I really am interested in how everybody's doing. And I see Ranita Mathis just popped on. Hey, Ranita, would love to know how you all are doing. So we're going to do a quick poll and take a look at the lay of the land here and find out, you know, where we rank. How are we doing? Let's go ahead and pop up the first poll question. We have two for you today, and this will kind of inform our conversation. So the first question is, when it comes to nurturing your business relationships, what has been the most difficult for you during the pandemic? And you guys go ahead and check all that apply. What has been the most difficult thing for you during this pandemic when it comes to these really important professional relationships? And I'm going to click on my choices as well. Give everybody another 30 seconds to go ahead and check. You can check, you know, whatever is applicable there. And we will have results in real time. I love this technology. Mm-hmm. Everybody do it? Everybody done? Yeah, thumbs up if you did it. Okay, Lisa, what is the result? Let's take a look at this result. Okay, number one, maintaining and deepening those relationships, 53%. Leave it up there a minute, Lisa, and I really want to know, Sue, what do you think of this? 53% said the biggest issue is maintaining and deepening these relationships. And let's see, the lowest problem was being authentic. That's pretty interesting.
You know, I think it's fascinating, and I have found that's one benefit of all of us being on video. You know, you get to see people's home. I mean, there's lovely fake backgrounds, but often, you know, for response time or whatever, you see people's homes, you see their children, you see their dogs, things that previously we would have tried really hard if we were working from home, not for people to see. And I think it just brings a little bit of authenticness into everybody's relationship, humanizes everyone. And I think that's a great thing.
That is really well said. Okay, number two, the second biggest issue seems to be having the confidence and the energy to reach out. That's really hard. So Adele, what's your take on that? Are you surprised to see that?
I'm not surprised at all. You know, we have new demands on our energy that we didn't have before. So we're still learning new ways to run our energy system. It takes energy to move into something new. Energy for confidence, for reaching out. You do have to have enough left over at the end of the day to do that without having to squeeze blood out of the turnip, you know? And so the question becomes, how can we do it in a more juicy, natural way?
Right.
So you don't feel exhausted.
Really interesting. Montrella, what do you think of the biggest issue being maintaining and deepening these relationships? And then the lowest ranked on the list is being authentic.
Well, that totally makes sense. With COVID, we are all like socially isolated, and it's difficult, especially if you're accustomed to like having coffee with someone and things like that. So this is a time where it requires a lot of creativity. And that's why I'm so happy you're having this platform today, Cynthia.
Awesome. Okay, well, let's go ahead and ask the second question. Lisa will pop it up on the screen for us. Lisa Herman, shout out to Lisa, who is so awesome. Thank you, Lisa. Even in normal circumstances, it's difficult to be comfortable when you're reaching out and meeting someone who is crucial to your success. How do you feel when meeting someone who is crucial to your success? Are you very comfortable, somewhat comfortable, a bit uncomfortable, or very uncomfortable? So when you're meeting someone who's really crucial to your success, very comfortable, somewhat comfortable, a bit uncomfortable, or very uncomfortable. And Maddie's with us. She's going to give us a drum roll, but I'm not hearing a drum roll.
Here we go.
Here we go. Okay, that's good. All right, so the results are already in. Somewhat uncomfortable at 67%. very uncomfortable, 6% very comfortable. Isn't that interesting, Montrella? What do you think about that? No one is very comfortable.
Oh, I can imagine. That makes sense to me for sure. And, it's kind of like these are the opportunities that, can be life changers. And sometimes we all kind of experience that sort of imposter syndrome, right? Do I really belong here? So I can see how that could be true.
All right. Well, so I think we need to do a little bit deeper dive on becoming more comfortable. If nobody here, and I know for a fact there are some major business leaders on this call, and I'm so happy to see you or your names. So Sue, you didn't say very comfortable, did you? Did you do this?
I did not.
Of all people, I would have thought certainly you would check very comfortable. Tell us about that.
So I think there's a couple things. One, I'm naturally an introvert, and we've discussed this, the panelists before. So I think that makes outreach a little bit uncomfortable naturally. And secondly, I think we all have, it's a bit of the risk, right? We all have concern about the risk in a relationship, and this is a high stakes situation. I think some of that you need to conquer to be effective. And some of it, a little bit of edge is not a bad thing. So you're at peak performance.
So you think we're all okay, even though nobody said they're very comfortable, because you think it's okay to have a little anxiety there.
Yeah, I think it's where you're at exactly on there. Not anxiety, but maybe edge.
Okay, edge. And then Montrella, tell us, what can we do to make it more comfortable to connect with these really, really important individuals we need to reach out to? And actually, I did it a few times today, and I got to tell you, it's really hard for me.
Yes, I totally understand. And I'm also an introvert, so I know exactly, although people don't believe it because I do put myself out there when necessary, but we introverts tend to get our energy from, that one-on-one time or that alone time. So one of the things that you want to do is kind of really set your intentions for that encounter, for that experience. You want to visualize it. You want to see yourself being successful and getting certain things done. So that's one way. Another way would be just being present and being more interested rather than interested, right? So you're listening more, you're asking questions. And I guarantee, because I do a lot of networking, this will have them really wanting to know more about you after you first listen. So those are two major tips that I would give.
Those are great suggestions. And I know in some of her work, Adele does a really fascinating demonstration that, the old proverbial elevator pitch. You meet somebody, that was the old school, right? You have your elevator pitch ready and you just fire it off. Do you think the elevator pitch is dead, Adele?
I think the way we've been doing it is definitely dead. People are tired of it. It feels rehearsed, stale. It's not particularly magnetic, and people say the exact words every single time, no matter who they're talking to or what the feeling of the room is. There's no inspiration or freshness. That's old.
Okay.
The new way of connecting is much more spontaneous. It's much more tailored to the moment. Presence, which we'll talk about in a bit, becomes much more important because that's what people respond to in connecting.
Do you think the elevator pitch is dead, Sue? Do we need an elevation for the elevator pitch?
So I agree with Adele. I think it's not a bad exercise to be intentional in terms of how you define yourself. But I think trying to tell your story in a few minutes when you meet someone, it goes back to what Montrella said. It's really more about them, what you can do for them, what you can learn from them, than it is about you. I've found that much more successful.
Montrella?
No, I totally agree. I think it's quality over quantity. So if you leave that lasting impression with someone, hey, they may introduce you to 10 more people. And so being present in that moment, granting them their beingness, I think is a key part of it. Yeah.
Right.
So I would say the elevator pitch, it has its uses. I know for me and working for a while now, it's important to be able to say in one sentence what you do. A lot of times we would get into the process, the doing, and people don't want to hear that. Can you imagine if I start talking about Freud with you, right? I'm a licensed therapist, but you don't want to hear that. You want to know more about the impact that I've had, or perhaps some testimonies. So I think there's a science to it, but I don't think it's totally dead.
All right, well, we just heard from Montrella, relationship expert. that it's really important to be able to say what you do in one sentence. Adele, do you have a demonstration so you can show us maybe 2 different ways to get that across energetically? I know
Energetically. I so agree with what Mantrella and Sue said. It's important that people have some idea what you do, but they are more responding to the energy in the room when they're in your presence. Presence is the new thing that will help you get noticed. It's not so much what you say, although you have to have some idea of what problem you solve, like what Mantrella did. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to give a quick demo, and I want you to just sit back and watch. Imagine that you met me at a networking event like this. You didn't know who I was. There are 2 different energetic states. Watch. This is how most people talk at a networking event. I'm going to send my energy up into my head. It's slightly up here. And just notice how you feel around me as I'm talking. I sound
could we put Adele on a big screen, or maybe she is for everybody? I'd love
Can you see me? Okay, so the easiest way to not be present with the person in front of you is to think about something that's bothering you. Your to-do list, it's slightly up here. And hi, Adele. Hi, everybody. My name's Adele, and I specialize in helping women find their special sauce so they can stand out in the marketplace, attract more of the right clients, get paid for what they're worth, and be more visible. Because women who have more presence get noticed better. Okay, so you just experienced, this is how people in networking typically speak. Nothing, probably like, you may, but now I'm going to change my energy. And I just want you to notice what happens. I'm changing my energy to a different part of me. And I'm going to speak. I'm not trying to fake my voice. This is not some theatrical thing. It's being more in the moment, in my body. Hey, everybody, my name's Adele, and I specialize with helping women stand out, get the visibility they want with a magnetic presence so people remember you. It's much easier to sell your message, whether it's to the board or to a client, when people are attracted to your energetic field. And I specialize in cultivating this it factor in women so that your personal and private lives just bloom. So I basically said the same thing, but I want you to just notice what was difference in your experience. And I'd love to hear, unmute or whatever.
Yeah, why don't we just unmute everything?
Unmute. Yeah, because most people,
Yeah, my impression was you were very present and more intentional.
In the first or the second one?
In the second one. And you weren't just racing through it like, I tend to do because I'm trying to stay on time or whatever.
Yeah.
It was very magnetic. She was there she was right there with you.
Right. Good point, Anita.
Quality. Yeah. If you're in a room full of people networking, this is what's going to have people remember you. And here's the secret sauce. You're going to feel a lot more confident. You won't have to try to be confident. The secret is to use your body, use your mojo. And I know we don't have time to get into all that, but I wanted everyone to feel a little bit. I'd love to hear more. What'd you notice?
I think for me, it would be more that you were speaking directly to me instead of speaking like to an audience. It felt a little bit more authentic.
Isn't it weird that the harder we try to be authentic, the less we are? Isn't that just, it's like ironic, but the more present we are, the more authentic, because sometimes I think people try a little too hard and you can feel it,
Great point. All right, well, now we're going to give everybody a chance to sort of play with some of these ideas and to really talk about what your experience has been establishing these crucial relationships and nurturing them. When was it awkward for you? When did it really work? We're going to go into a breakout group to do this just for 10 minutes, super quick, get you in and out. You'll be with a smaller group. You'll be able to have a conversation. But first, I would like to invite you to get up out of your chair and go in your room, wherever you are, and find an object that says a lot about who you are. And that's how we're going to start the breakout session, by everybody sort of sharing what their object is. And if you're not on camera, you can explain it to us. So go ahead and get up and do it. And we'll see you guys in just over 10 minutes. All right?
Yep, the little timer is a great meeting me.
Renita, I can see your beautiful face now. Hi, Sandra.
Hello.
Hi, how are you, Sandra?
I am awesome. Thank you.
Good, I'm so glad. All right, everybody's streaming back in. Sue, what was your object?
My object was a plant.
It was what?
It was a plant. One, because I'm a gardener, and two, because I love seeing things grow, ideas, people, businesses, and I sort of realized a few years ago that's the connection to liking to art. Same thing.
I love it. I love it. Anybody else want to share what your object was? Adele, I know you will. What have you got there? It looks like a...
I've got every color in that Crayola makes. Love to draw. When I'm stressed, I have these by my desk. These are me. Almost 200 different colors of crayons.
Wow.
Wow. Maddie, what did they share in your group? What were some of the objects they had in your group?
Well, Montreala had a essential oil diffuser, and she said it helps her and her students kind of feel calm and relaxed. And she said vanilla is the scent that's in it. So
I love it.
So here it is right here. It's a lamp that burns an oil. So, yeah. And so the client, it's a very common effect for clients. It actually changes colors. And yeah.
Renita, what did you choose?
I have a very nice little vase from a friend of mine who was in Taiwan, and she sent it to me. And
Nice. Very nice to think about your friend. All right. Well, what were some of the themes in the groups that came up? Annette, I don't know if you were a facilitator in your group, but I know you're a very astute listener.
Sure. So our group was quite interesting. I think we talked about relationships now during COVID, and it seemed to be a couple of things. One is that because we're in a virtual world, in some instances, it's easier because you can reach out to so many different people across the world. So that was kind of one. The other one that I really liked was choice. That with so much available to us from connecting with people is that you could really choose, you know, who and what you want to spend your time on, almost like you could already prioritize your calendar of what you want it to look like. So it could be more for yourself versus others. And then I think there was a little bit of back and forth on do we like to see people's homes or do we not on Zoom? Do we like to see the backgrounds and the homes and the plants and the cats going across the screen? Because you get a little bit of personal, you know, their personality, or does it bring judgment into play? So, you know, one person had mentioned they love talking to people all over the world and not seeing that because they're all different kinds and types and backgrounds, and they're not bringing any judgment, and they can develop a better relationship. So it's quite interesting, but it was like first maybe talk on the phone first and then Zoom. So that was, it was a great discussion.
I love that. That's really great. Michelle, what about your group?
Yeah, so we had a great group, and it was funny how they were all introverts in the group. So, you know, hearing their perspective, and I said I must have been the outlier, and I was like, how did I get in this group? But it was a lot of discussion about those authentic conversations. So, you know, in building relationships, not being that pushy salesperson where you're being overly aggressive, but really listening. And we had some conversations on listening, active listening, listening to, I love this, understand and not to respond. And so most times when people are building relationships, they're ready for the answer, ready to say something. And so, you know, the importance and the value of that, the value of the relationship, not on the sale, the value of just being comfortable in the moment. So it was really good. You know, I loved how we opened it up by asking us to provide those personal items, which is a quick way to build relationships and get to know people authentically and what they bring and what they provide. So that was important. Again, knowing people, not just, you know, hey, as a client, but getting to really know people authentically. So we had some good discussion about that as well. So
Great. Thank you, Michelle. That was wonderful. And Sue, what was the theme in your group?
We really talked about relationships and when they don't work as well as when they do work, and how you handle it when it doesn't work. So a little bit about taking risk in relationships. So it was great, and we had some great objects as well.
So what were the conversations about when it came to the challenges in those relationships? And then what really worked for people? I'm interested.
So I think there was the challenge of when when you are the giver and you give and give and give and realize it's not going to come back. We had a bit of a conversation about, sometimes that happens and you just have to hope if you pay it forward in the long run, it will come back to you. But I think we've all experienced that to some extent, and it hurts, but can't stop you from trying again. So.
Excellent. And Adele, what about your group?
We had an interesting conversation on sensitivity, how everything is so heightened now that even email is no longer what it used to be. I think there were a few folks in my group that we all said, we don't even bother with email anymore because it's just, we're all trying to do things through text. Of course, if the whole world texts, then that doesn't work. Or, oh, then we'll jump ahead and do some video in text. I mean, everybody's trying to find a way because we're all so sensitive now because of the stress, the overwhelm, the extra demands on time. People talked about time management being more challenging because like I said, what day is it? And it's like being in a blender where you used to have a Monday morning, afternoon. Now it's all like, you put it all in a blender and you're not really sure where you are. That's been my experience. And sensitivity, because I think, I'm introverted and so I can feel that pressure. It was a lovely conversation.
Great. It's great to hear. Do we miss anybody? I think we heard from most of the groups, right? Because I guess Maddie and Montrella, you were in the same group. So, okay, that's really fantastic. So what were some of the ideas in terms of how to nurture those relationships? The number one issue that people are having, 53%, maintaining and deepening relationships. What are some of the things that we can do to deepen those relationships? And let's go to our experts, and then I would love to hear from the group some of the things maybe you personally have tried that you found really do work. Montrella, you want to start to
Sure.
really maintain and deepen those relationships now in the time of COVID?
So one way I think to do that, and I know this is the one that's most challenging, I think more so challenging before COVID-19, is the follow-up. Follow up and follow through. So I've been doing a lot more one-on-ones with people. And like I said, it's more about quality versus quantity, because you can meet 10 people, but if you don't actually do the follow-up, it's like 0, right? But when you have this one-on-one and you commit like an hour of your time out of your busy schedule and the two of you get to exchange what you do, I think that, you have someone forever in your corner, and then that allows them to refer people to you, because now they'll think about you. They'll think about Montrella as the therapist who takes insurance, etc. And so I think the follow-up and follow-through is a key element of that.
What do you think, Sue, in terms of those that you are connecting with? What do you personally do that's really, give us your success secrets. It's like your beauty secret. Give us your success secret when it comes to deepening those crucial relationships, because you're really good at that. Tell us a couple tricks so we can be insiders.
Well, thank you. I think we really hit it in the beginning. I think listening is really important. I think when it's more about you understanding the person than them understanding you, that just is engaging. That's engaging for both sides, right? There's a lot of disclosure that happens, a lot of building trust. And as I think one of your tips says, building trust takes time, but it starts with kind of that listening, the not judging. Another thing I frequently use is educate me. And that isn't just to people who are senior to me. I find it just as educational to people who are different or people who are earlier in their career, is educate me on this, that, or the other, which again, particularly as an introvert, as I mentioned, gives us something to talk about. We're sort of in action on a topic, and you end up building a lot of trust and relationship about that. And then follow up, I think, is really important. I know I've been on the other side of so many people who've said, oh, hey, can we meet or do something, that never really follow through, who ask for mentoring or whatever, don't follow up. That I am conscious of that myself, that when I have that opportunity to do it, And the fourth little trick I use is no yes or no conversations. So as I'm trying to get to know someone or stay connected or deepen the connection, you know, I don't typically ask for help as a yes or no. I'll ask for education or information or something, you know, that basically starts the circle of conversations that you can keep it going in person, you know, by text, by email, but a circle. And to me, that's all about not asking yes or no questions.
Okay, so but what happens when you get to that point that you've got to ask yes or no? Do you ever get to that point, or do you just hope it happens, or?
Oh, that's a great question. I think when you actually need help, usually for me, I'm asking that when there's already a relationship and trust, and it's in the context of, if you're able, would you be willing to do this? Which I guess in fairness, Cynthia, are yes or no questions. But generally, if you phrase it right, somebody might not be willing to, you know, sponsor you for promotion or donate to a cause, but they might be willing to contribute their ideas or their support or talk to you about how to get yourself ready for the next time. So I try to ask it, you know, not yes or no, even though it is a yes or no, but to give them an out. I try to give people an out so they can still help me even without giving me everything I might want.
That's beautiful. Oh, that was just what I was hoping for. Thank you for all those little nuggets. Adele, do you want to add on to any of that from your perspective as a mentor?
Sue and Montrella said fabulous things. One thing that I like to do is in getting to know people is to not really have an agenda. It's like, oh, we're going to network. It's more just, hey, I heard you speak at the event. You sound really cool. You're like, I'd like to get to know you better. It seems to reduce the stress of why we're talking, because the whole point of networking is to get to know people. You may not need that person for anything for a while. So it's not so mercenary, like, okay, we're, you know, I like just, hey, you know, let's just live to, what do you do? How can I support you? People are very open to that question. How can I support you right now? And they'll tell you. And I'm taking notes. Well, you know, if something crosses my desk that fits, I'd be happy to form. They really like that. So it's just getting to know people first, worry about all the strategic stuff later. And for me, that's more enjoyable because I can't always predict who I'm going to need when and all that. But yeah.
So the key is to make it enjoyable. And I shared a statistic with us before that, what was it about stress?
Yeah.
90% of health problems are associated with stress. So if we can, you know, enjoy our relationships and take some of that stress out of it, it will be worth it.
Absolutely. The CDC came out and said 90% of all illnesses have a stress component. What is stressing people? Well, work is a huge part of our lives. So if work is stressful, why is it stressful? Oh, it's related to relationship and connection. So if we can get better at that, then you can see the domino effect of how that improves health and everything.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, is there anyone else who would like to weigh
I
in?
wanted to add to that.
Yes, please, Montrella.
What Adele is saying, I think it's also about, I mean, whether you're a business owner or an executive or an employee or even an intern, because I know we have a few on the call, that's so awesome. You know, wherever you're representing, there's a mission. And so let's get out of, it's all about me. Take the attention off of you and really make it about the impact that you're trying to make in the world. And as women, we naturally can do that. And so I think speaking from the heart and sharing what your mission is and the impact that you want to have will sort of ease up and build that confidence, because a lot of things that we know, our knowledge base and the different backgrounds we come from, we take it for granted. But I may be like, wow, you know, tell me more about that. And so I think if we speak from the heart, that will help a lot.
That curiosity. All right, well, does anybody else who is part of this conversation want to weigh in on this with a little secret, something you learned, or if you have a question for one of our experts today?
Yeah, this is Michelle. I'll just add to a point. I mean, these are great tips that have been shared. For me, it's also when I'm in the call or even speaking with someone, being fully present. You know, sometimes it's easy to multitask and look at something else, especially if we're on a call. But it's being fully present and making that person feel like they're the only thing that you care about in that moment, to really build that relationship. So in addition to what was all said, that's the only additional add. Because before, even in networking events, right, it's easy to be like, you know, when you're in an event with a lot of people, But even in that moment, being fully present, really listening to the person and making them feel like they're the only person in the room. So
Beautiful. I love it. Thanks so much. And Michelle is an HR expert, and she's written for Pink before, and I really appreciate you weighing in. Michelle, you always have great nuggets. Let's go ahead and pop on the solutions, sort of a tips graphic that we worked on to share with you all, and take a look at this. And interested in what you think of this. And certainly Sue and Montrella and Adele, you know, let's go ahead and go through this. Absolutely write down your goals so that there's clarity. You know what you're focusing on and what your objectives are, what you need. Write down what you need. Identify those you want to reach out to, and then check in to see how people are doing. Let's talk about that a little bit.
I love that. And I think it's okay to slow the conversations down. Speak less, listen more. And even if it's just silent, how are you doing? You know, there seems to be like networking needs to be fast and quick, and how many people can we cram in, and defeats the purpose. If you get one good connection with a person, just even like the whole week, and that was like an amazing conversation, that is so much more worthwhile and enjoyable for everyone than 10 frantic conversations a day. So I just love I like to slow things down. That's what has worked for me. How are you doing? Yeah.
Hey, Cynthia, this is Honey. I'm sorry I can't be on video, but I would love to chime in too.
Please do.
I think what a lot of us are facing right now is that we are trying to be everything and perfect when we come to the screen and behind the scenes for all of us. And for me, who's like in the wellness space and I have all the tools in the world, but things sometimes fall apart. And I think now through COVID, that's even more so representative. So I think I love all of everything that has been said about connecting with each other on a personal note. But I think what also would be helpful for each of us when we connect personally is to become vulnerable about what's truly happening in my life. I mean, for me, I feel like sometimes such a hypocrite to say, you know, it's all perfect. I'm like, you know, it's not all perfect. You have your own things. And when I fall off my routine of having good habits, good morning routines, and all the things that, you know, can help us to stay sane, I fall off too. And I think it's so helpful to be vulnerable in our conversations to help others as well open up and first and foremost build a relationship. Everything else will follow.
I think that's beautiful, Honey. Thank you so much for sharing that. Checking in with people, vulnerability. It's a huge buzzword. Even before we got on the call today, we were talking about with the Pink team, the upcoming Pink event, to really focus on building your power alliance, but sort of doing it through vulnerability, that common ground. Anything else along the lines of checking in on others? So important, because this has been a really difficult time, and I feel like people appreciate that. I know I do. Montrella, what are you seeing in terms of this with the folks you work with?
Well, with clients specifically, I mean, everything she mentioned is what I deal with on a regular. I actually don't recommend that people try to be a therapist because, you know, you're not trained in that. True. And we come from our fears, our limitations, our judgments, right? So we mean well, and we, you know, telling them what to do, but when they don't actually follow that, it's like, that's why. So as a trained therapist, you know, I'm trained to listen, but in a networking event, I think that goes along with what I was talking about earlier as far as acknowledging, right? So yes, someone may not be feeling very happy on cloud 9. So it's not our job to be like, well, the sun is shining, you should be grateful, right? So you want to acknowledge them by saying, okay, well, I understand, I can see it from your point. So that's one of the tips that I would say. Acknowledge people for where they are, how they're feeling, and what they're thinking. It is okay, right? It doesn't discount who you are as a person. So that's huge. When you do that, it just opens up the space. And they're like, oh my goodness, you're such a good listener. And then they're more interested in learning more about what you do and who you represent.
Beautiful. I love that. And certainly helps to connect on a deeper level, which was one of the big things we wanted to talk about today. Ask for what you want. We talked a little bit about that. I loved how Sue talked about it. Montrella and Adele, did you weigh in on that? I think that's really important as well.
Finding your voice and doing it in a way where you feel safe in your body. If you feel safer in your body, it automatically translates into the room, and people will lean in. So it's a practice. You know, this is ongoing work. It's not like anyone just learns this in 20 minutes and poof, you know, but it's ongoing practice, because the more you achieve and the more you want to ask, we need more mojo. There's always an upward place to go.
You know, one of the fairly senior level women who we work with, she had confided in me, I think she would love the fact that I'm sharing this with all of you, that she was introduced by somebody and she was disappointed that they didn't introduce her. You know, she's amazing, like with her real, you know, she's extraordinary and she's got this amazing title and she's done all these things. And I said to her, well, did you ask that they introduce you that way? And she said, no, I was too scared to ask. I mean, sometimes, you know, I think people really appreciate, I want to help. Tell me what you need. Right, Sue? You're shaking your head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think we all assume, you know, in everything, we assume other people understand what we mean. We assume they understand what we want. And I think it is very helpful to articulate it. Again, as I said, maybe not in a black and white, but on a continuum, so they can connect and support you in whatever way makes sense. I mean, an intro is easy, right? You can write your own and email it in and say, here's the great way to intro me.
Exactly. It's so simple. It's so simple. All right. And then we also talked about noticing when you stop the listening. This is actually something that I think, Adele, was that from you? The importance of just, you know, realizing when you're no longer present, when you're too focused on yourself, you know, as Montrella talked about, really listening deeply and the importance of that.
Yeah, I mean, I would invite every woman here just for an experiment, if you want to just see where your growth edge is in connection with other people, just after this call for 30 minutes. Just notice how many thoughts bombard your head. You can have a little tick mark. How many thoughts are around, oh, I'm scared of what someone thinks. Or, oh, I better say something useful here. Or oh, I'm waiting for this person to stop talking so I can start saying. Or, oh, why did this happen? You know, like all this noise, it impacts your ability to connect with people. You don't have to do anything. Just notice how loud that is. And that alone will be eye-opening. So if you're looking for the growth edge of how to work through some of this, just notice how loud it is and go, oh, no wonder I'm stressed.
Great suggestion. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions? If nobody has any questions, we want to begin to wrap up a little bit. We are going to do something different today. When the clock strikes 5:30, we're going to stick around for just a little bit. We've got about 4 minutes left so that we can talk informally. Feel free to stay for about 10 minutes. I just want to share a few things, let you know what's coming up next. Lisa can put a graphic on the screen. We've got some other monthly Zoominars coming up over the next couple of months. And we have our big 16th annual Fall Empowerment event. It takes place on November 6th. And one of our speakers, Nikki Clifton, just today was promoted over at UPS. She is the president of the UPS Foundation. Actually, she moves into that role on the 1st of November. So she'll be in her first week on the job. Hope you can join us November 6th. Lisa could even put in a link in the chat so you can have access to that. We'll be doing some other Zoominars October 22nd. These are all Thursday afternoons. And then December 17th. Would love for you to join us. Our Pink Power Alliance members are invited for free and they get VIP seating and all of that. So before we let you go, I wanted to just, in keeping with some of what we've talked about today, let me go through actually a real quick recap, because that has been a big request. Number one, as a recap, the number one issue that people are having, that we're having, is maintaining and deepening relationships. 53% said that. The second biggest issue, confidence to reach out. The least problem we're having is when it comes to being authentic, maybe sometimes too authentic, since we're seeing maybe more of people's homes and so forth than we want to see, because we don't want to jump to judgments. 67% said they are uncomfortable when they are reaching out, somewhat uncomfortable. So definitely that's one thing we want to think about. And in order to combat that discomfort, we came up with a lot of great solutions today. Lisa can pop up the solutions graphic we created, but I'd also like to add a few more solutions from the group today. the importance of being vulnerable and being honest, being interested in other people rather than being interesting yourself. We talked about utilizing technology to reach people and to foster those deeper relationships, because you can decide who to talk to and when and about what. The importance of asking, how can I support you when you're on those Zoom calls? The importance of following up, the follow through, and to focus on quality versus quantity. And if you want to get the other person to share and to talk about their situation, to simply say, educate me. And reminder not to ask yes or no questions, but still the importance of making sure that you're clear about what you're looking for, and do not simply assume that the other person knows what you want, to make sure you're really clear about that. And to say how I can support you. So then it's that mutually rewarding relationship. We'll be putting together a recap for everybody so that you can see it in one place, because it's such great information that you all came up with today. I really am so grateful for you. And I wanted to take a moment, in keeping with Adele's encouragement, and get everybody just to reach your arms out. Do it with me so I don't feel so vulnerable and alone here. Big breath in. And raise your arms up, lean your head back, stretch, reach out, and head to one side and head to the other. That feels so good, right?
Oh, yes.
So it feels really, really good. Okay, and then I want to close with just a few lines from a poem that I wanted to share with you all. I actually think I memorized it. And this is looking out of the bedroom window at the pine trees. And it goes like this. I love to lie in fur and fleas. Tell me how else to live when everything is dying, every needle that shimmers. So I leave you with that thought. Lisa's going to put on some beautiful music from Adele. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and we're in your corner, and I hope you just enjoy and really benefit from some of the ideas that were exchanged today. Take care, everyone. Bye, or stick around if you want. Hi, Nancy. Nancy, I see you're there. Hi, Annette. You guys want to unmute your microphones? Or maybe Lisa, you can unmute everybody. Nancy, how are you?
I was waving goodbye, not hi.
Thank you for being here. And thanks for all you added, as usual.
All right.
So much.
All right. Bye-bye. Great job, Cynthia. Great job, Sue, Adele, everybody, Montrola.
Take care, Annette. Nancy, how are you? You are on mute still. Florida, you're not on mute. Who's calling us from Florida?
Here we go. Wait.
Oh, Susie.
Yes, I had it. I had to change my name, so it's me. Yay.
Okay, well, so glad you could join us.
There we go.
Really
There you
happy
go.
to meet everybody.
Yeah, that was great. That was really wonderful. So I appreciate the panel. So that was wonderful. You did a wonderful job.
Thank you, Sue, so much for sharing those secrets with us.
Oh, you're welcome. It was fun to be in a smaller group, a smaller pink group. So thanks for having me.
And then we will, compile all this and we'll share it with a big group. So it was good, really. And Montrella, so nice to meet you. And, tell us a little bit more about you and your work.
Oh, well, a lot of my work came up today with people having anxiety, for example, people struggling in their careers and even not knowing their why, Cynthia, and their purpose on the planet. So I love what I do. I've been doing it over 12 years now. And I get to, I apply a holistic approach, so mind, body, and spirit. And I'm also a practical therapist. So you won't hear a whole bunch of theories from me. I will provide you with tools that you can actually use. So I just love what I do. Yeah.
Nice. Well, that certainly was the case today. Adele, what did you think?
Oh, that was awesome. I enjoyed it. Good job.
Yeah, this is
So
great.
Robin is with us, and Em, can you hear us? Em, I know you popped on a little bit late, and also Julie, I see, is with us, and Robin and Julie and Em. We were talking about being introverts, and that's one of the challenges we face, even when in these smaller groups, and even with some of our Pink Power Alliance members. They really want to get involved, and they really want the support and the access, but they're very introverted, so it's challenging. What do you do in that situation, Montrella? When you
So I
have
think one of the main things is really knowing what networking is about. Networking is about, it's like PR, good PR, good public relations. So if you know what I do and I do it well, when you come in contact with people, it will be just such a natural flow for you to say, I know a woman that you might want to give a call to. So if we think about it like that and build those relationships, again, I can't stress enough the quality over the quantity, because just like you, Cynthia, my most thriving, most fruitful things have been through just networking with one or two people. And then we become like really good friends and business partners. And I mean, it's just priceless. It really is.
It's really rich.
Putting yourself out there is helpful as well.
I did want to mention resources. I know Adele, you included a resource, but Sue, if you have any resources that any articles you've read or anything that you've seen that you think would be really useful, and you as well, Montrella, that if you'd like to just put it in the chat or send it to Lisa or myself, and we will share it with the community, because I think everyone's hungry for those kinds of resources today.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
I think, one thing we didn't talk about, I think, is practice. And, it applies to public speaking, right? The more you practice, the easier it gets. And that's a bit artificial, but I think the same thing's true in a relationship. If you make yourself do it, it does get easier and you get more comfortable. Don't you all feel that way?
Yes.
It's kind of like you have to make yourself do it.
I love
you
that.
learn so much from the people you actually network with when you do that follow up and follow through. I've learned tons. I mean, people have so much experience. I met someone recently, and it's like, wow, I'm so glad she's in my corner. But she told me just this morning, she was like, Montrella, I told you I'm old enough to be your mother. So I was like, thank you for all your wisdom. She's been around, and so these relationships are really meaningful. So really leverage them, really work them. We just have so much access to people, and but those one-on-ones, and just really invest that time and energy in getting to know someone, I think it can go a long, long way. You can learn a lot like that.
Great suggestion, Montrell. I love it. I know earlier when everyone was talking about focus on the others, people ask me a lot why I feel so comfortable speaking, because I'm thinking I'm speaking. This is what I'm trying to share, with you. So I have no reason to be nervous, because I have nothing to do with it. It's just sharing.
So I've got a comment here, and this is really for Cynthia, but the panel that's on, I'd love your input. I almost feel like this session right now could be incorporated, because we didn't have time as far as the audience to really ask you questions or go, oh, right. And I know that the program you're trying to get through and get all the questions answered, but this right now is super cool, right? Where it's not formal and we're just kind of batting ideas around. I would love to see that incorporated as part of the formal overall, the informal session as part of the formal Zoom.
Yeah, I mean, we want to incorporate this, and I love the idea. It's worked better maybe in the past. Maybe people are shy or introverted. I think when we've encouraged them to send questions to the experts via the chat. So maybe we'll do that next time. I wonder, Susie, along those lines, and Sue, weigh in as well. And Montrella, you may not know, we have bigger events. So we had a pink event last month, and we had 1,500 people. I don't know if I got to tell you, 1,500 people registered to watch. But then you miss the connection, like it's great just to talk to you all. I wonder if we could do something, you know, breakout sessions in the big groups who you've been to the events, maybe people around afterwards if they want to stay. You have any suggestions?
Sure.
You know,
I mean,
go ahead, Montreal.
No, go ahead, Sue. I've been talking.
I think you know, breakout good groups are good, but it's almost like not enough time to really connect. So that's the trade-off you have is time. So maybe, as you said, if you have the, you know, the equivalent of the cocktail hour after conversation with maybe some breakout rooms by topic for people who are interested, maybe something like that. I don't know what everyone else thinks.
I think that's a great idea, because just the whole practice of connection is, it's not a time, you can't just get it's an experience. You sort of have to, like what we're doing here, we're immersing ourselves right into the moment, and that's why it feels so good. And you know, so there are times when we're covering XYZ in a certain amount of time, so we need to do that, and so we have to be intentional. Is this XYZ or is it immersion? I think if we're gonna if there's a way to design both, like pieces of, I mean, that takes some creativity, could be done. But I think more connection happens when there's no real agenda, just like magic's happening here of people just sharing and bouncing. I'm bouncing off of what Sue's saying. I'm bouncing off what Montreal is saying. We don't really have an agenda. We have a topic, but I think everyone on this call right now is feeling something that's really delicious. And that's what I enjoy.
Yeah, and actually one of the recent monthly Zoominars we did, I heard from a number of people who actually exchanged their contact information. I mean, now they're like best friends, right?
Yeah, follow through. That's
Right.
right.
So, how many people did you all have in your breakout room?
I had 3 plus me.
Yep, 3 plus me.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty good number. I think, you know, 4 to 10, maybe 4 to 8, I think is good. You know, and I think it's short, but I don't think it's too short. What, Susie, you're on mute. Cannot hear you.
She's saying goodbye, I think.
Oh, okay.
I didn't want to interrupt. I'm sorry. That's why I just chatted. I love y'all. Thank you so much. You did a fabulous job. Got to run.
Good to see you, Susie.
Thanks.
Take care. Anyway. Thank you all so much. Really valuable, and I really
This was awesome. Thank you. Thank you for the
job.
And your knowledge, and Sue, all those years of wisdom, and Montrella, your 12 years, you know, in this space, and Adele, and your music. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Thanks for having me.
You created such an awesome space. Very well done.
We enjoyed it.
Bye.
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 Get your free gift, guys, in the link there.
Thank you.
I can send you a free gift. You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, we had a gentleman.